I want to talk about relationships because I know that is a big part of your book. And, you talk about this idea of, people and sometimes being envious of you or the other way round. And I think that can get into a very murky situation also where people feel that they have to be friends with someone because, I hear it quite a bit actually. Like, I've known them my whole life. Okay. Does that make you like chained to them?
Mm.
Like you've grown as a person and all you do is say how much, this person's annoying you or they're doing this or that. Like, why you keep being friends with them? Like that kind of like I will start getting irritated when I've given people advice and they, say that. But I wonder, going back to the envious thing, even for me, I found that when my profile started raising, I noticed with some people that it was hard for me to talk to them about my successes. And I know when I remember getting a book deal, I found it very hard to tell a friend of mine. Like I waited for ages because I just did not want to upset her because I cared for her and I knew it would hurt her. And in hindsight, I'm like, why did I do that? You know what I mean? As in, like, why was I so worried about telling her? She's supposed to be my friend. Um, so I would love your take on that and the idea of this kind of like needing to hold on to friendships even when they're probably not serving you as the one person and then the other person as well.
Yeah, I mean, I too have had sort of personal experiences with this. And you're kind of told, aren't you, that you learn about people when you're having hard times,
Mm,
but you also learn a lot about people, possibly more about people when good things happen to you. And
100%.
yeah, um, and I think those sorts of experiences for me made me think more about how when we were kids we were taught about how friends are forever, and forever friends and all this kind of stuff, and that's a lovely idea, but it doesn't really account for how people's lives change, people's values change, people go off in different directions, um, they have different experiences, and sometimes people just start behaving in a way that uh, doesn't isn't healthy for the friendship
Mm.
anymore. Sometimes um, sometimes what was a friendship that maybe you went to school with someone, and so you've been friends for so long, that you don't really enjoy spending time with them anymore. Um, Maybe you don't feel safe around them anymore. Maybe it's one of those experiences where you can't really share your successes, or maybe you can't even share your more difficult times. Maybe when you reach out for some kind of connection, say, "Oh, this terrible things happened this week." Maybe it's met with a sort of competitive, "Oh, well, something happened that's worse." For
Mm.
me, and maybe that then bid for connection is squashed, and I think sometimes the signs are really subtle with friendship. That's what makes it difficult, is there isn't this sort of one big thing that suddenly makes you think, this person doesn't have my best interests at heart. Actually, often it's subtle. It's kind of drip 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 over
Mm.
months or even years, where you just start to realize that this person isn't for me. They don't look out for me. I can't trust them to be there for me. I don't think they want the best for me. Um, and even though I'm giving this friendship as much as I can of myself, it doesn't seem to be coming back. And maybe being accepted in that friendship is dependent on you being kind of small enough for the other person to be able to tolerate you, or um, it might not be small enough, it might be something else enough. You might have to adapt who you are in order to be acceptable to that person, in a way that makes you compromise your own values, or be dishonest about who you are. And that's not true friendship, that's not healthy friendship anyway.
Mm.
And I think that's the thing, is it's one thing having friends, and we talk about how important friendships are to a healthy and happy life. But it's not just friendships, it's healthy friendship, it's good
Mm.
quality friendship, good quality connection with people we trust that makes the difference in our lives. And so, something I talk about in the book is that it is okay to make that decision about a friendship, however long you've had that friendship.
Mm.
If it's unhealthy for you and if it's damaging for you, it's okay to, and it's a big decision. I tell people, don't act on impulse, because it's your life, and it is a long-term friend. So when you get to that point that you've made the decision, do you know what, I'm going to move away from this person in some respect, be so clear in the reasons you've made that decision, that you can sit with that. And because you will miss them at some,
Mm.
there'll be something about the friendship that you miss, even though you might have made the decision that's best for you. um and also, kind of, you don't end that friendship in bitterness, or you know sort of send them on their way with compassion,
Mm.
that always wish the best for them, but just acknowledge that it's not necessarily healthy for you anymore. So maybe you're going to kind of see them less, or not trust them with personal information anymore, and those kind of things.
It's interesting, a girlfriend of mine chose to let go of a friendship that she'd had for a very long period of time. And, it took her a long time to come to the decision of letting go. And then when she did, she said this one line to me that I'll never forget. She said, "You know what, Sarah? I feel like I can just breathe again." And I thought, God, that's so interesting, where a friendship gets to a point where it can be so suffocating, what it had been for her, and toxic, I suppose, in a sense. And even though there was not one big thing that happened to her and her friend, it was almost like 1,000 cuts. And she made that decision, which was hard, and she was getting rid of a long-term friend, but it felt like a weight off her shoulders. And I think if anyone's listening and they're in this situation, know that there there are plenty of people out there that are good, that are, going to be great friends for you that you haven't met yet. And a lot of us change over time, and when we evolve, we're not the person we used to be. And if people are relating to, Sarah when she was in grade 3, Sarah's not in grade 3 anymore. She's evolved, and sometimes they have not. So letting go of friendships is sometimes absolutely a necessary thing if we want to kind of move forward in our life. Because, as you said, community is important, but not a community of people who don't make you feel very good about yourself.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think also, something I mentioned in the book is about how it's also important to think clearly about what we're bringing to the friendship as well. What we
Mm.
don't want to kind of promote is that sense of, well, as soon as a friend is not living up to your expectations, or saying what you want them to say, then get rid of them. And that's not really what I'm saying. It's about, part of that equation has to also include, am I bringing to the friendship something that contributes to them too, and am I doing what I can to make the friendship better and make it healthy, and am I also being a good friend to them? And so you have to kind of, and that's really difficult stuff it's really difficult to be
Mm.
honest with yourself about how you might be able to improve. And sometimes it's, someone can be on a destructive path, and then they vilify the friends who are brave enough to say, this is not the way for you. So if
Mm.
if someone is on a destructive path, like sort of self-sabotaging and not looking after themselves properly, there will be the friends who kind of yes man them and say, that's fine, it's fine, it's fine, and they'll just kind of watch in their destruction. And there'll be other friends who are, brave enough to say, this isn't what you should be doing. This is not good for you. It's not good for, your family or the people around you. You need to reevaluate here. And that's such a difficult place to be, because you put the friendship at risk, because there is that tendency then for that friend to say, forget you. You're not supporting me, and you're not, being there for me. And a friend isn't necessarily an echo chamber. Um, a really good friend is someone who says, pull your socks up. This is,
Mm,
you need to sort this out here and look after yourself properly. Or I don't know, some kind of silly example might be, okay, let's say you're studying for exams and you kind of come off track with it. There's a career that you really want, but you've got sidetracked with, a guy or something else that's destructive for you. And, not that a guy is destructive, but maybe out drinking at the weekends or something, and
mm,
you've not studied, and so you failed an exam. One of your friends might say, "Don't worry about it. You're having fun. Do your thing." Da, da, da. And your other friend might say, "Hang on a minute. You told me that this career is the most important thing to you, and it's your dream, and so you haven't studied. So how can I help you have another go at this? Or what could we do to help you get back on track? Or what's going on with all this drinking? What is there something going on here that we need to talk about?" And they're really, really difficult, uncomfortable conversations to have, because you're putting the friendship at risk if that person
mm,
back hits back and says, "I'm just leave me alone, I don't want to have that conversation." um so it's a sort of fine line to tread, isn't it?
mm.
And it always involves us kind of questioning, am I being that kind of ideal sort of image of a friend that I have for other people? Am I being that as well for other people?
Totally. It 100% goes both ways. That's what friendship is. So I,
Mm.
I absolutely agree.